My dear people of Southern Cameroons, fellow brave warriors of our liberation movement, my dear Ambazonians, both on ground zero, ground one, ground two, and in the diaspora. Accept liberation greetings from me, Comrade John Akuro, this day, July 7, 2022. Within the framework of this communication, and of course, I'd like you to share this video as much as you can. Share this link as much as you can so that we have many more people joining us on this platform. So we share this very important knowledge and debunk every step of the way, all attempts by agents of manipulation, confusion, and subjugation will destroy their attempts at making nonsense of what we know, of transforming very smart, wise, great people like us into foolish people. My brothers and sisters of Ambazonia, fellow sympathizers of the Southern Cameroon's cause for freedom. Today, on this platform, we are going to be looking at the latest outing of one Professor Victor Julius Ngoh. And we will go step by step into a lot of the lies he tried to spew about the history of the people of the Southern Cameroons. My dear people of Ambazonia, you always hear that you will know the truth, or they say, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. If we don't continue always to cancel this unteaching by agents of La République du Cameroun, some of our people can in the end be misled, misguided, and even think that what they had known all along to be the real Southern Cameroon's identity is wrong. That what they know all along, that it's important to fight for that which is yours, is wrong. And that the people of the Southern Cameroons were ever divided into something called Northwest and Southwest prior to La République du Cameroon's geographical gerrymandering with the avowed intention to divide and rule us. Listen, make sure you fasten your seatbelt, get some water if it's water you drink, or get a drink placed by you as we prepare to get into this broadcast. This is a very important broadcast, so don't move 1 inch. We'll have a few stopovers, but trust me, we will go step by step and debunk all those lies. And before I get into the viv of the subject matter, don't forget that prior to 1961, the Southern Cameroon's orders in council were never on any occasion used to attribute citizenship of the Southern Cameroons to anyone. Don't ever forget this. Don't let those who are among us with the avowed intention of unteaching us, of manipulating us, of setting confusion, don't ever let them get you to be absorbing things that are untrue. I say the orders in council, which represented the constitution of the Southern Cameroons prior to 1961, was never, ever used in attributing citizenship of the Southern Cameroons to anyone. And the reason is simple. We were not yet independent. We could only do that after we achieved independence. But that doesn't mean that we were not allowed to open our territory to receive people who were fleeing from war, people who were fleeing from very poor living conditions, people who were fleeing from all kinds of torture. Because the Southern Cameroons, beginning from 1954, was already a functional democracy where rights mattered. It is not today that in the Southern Cameroons we started talking about people's ability to talk freely, to express their opinions freely and to go about freely even after expressing their opinions, which might have been contrary to the positions held by the government. That happened in the southern Cameroons way back in 1954. And that is why people who were fleeing poor living conditions, fleeing authoritarian regimes, fleeing conflict and war in La République du Cameroon then, at that time even, it was not yet a country. They were still waiting for a freedom. They were still aspiring to freedom. And so some of their people ran into their territory, into our territory, I beg your pardon, just like some in Nigeria too escaped into our territory. And our people accommodated them. This is not synonymous to using our orders in council to grant them citizenship. You should never let anyone confuse you with these notions. Of course, we are going to be looking at a vast array of these issues in this particular communication. So, the subject matter for our discussion today is actually debunking or deconstructing what is today known as the Victor Julius Ngoh mantra. So, don't go away.
Would you like to make a six-figure income? Well, you have come to the right place. At Venbati LLC, we can make your dream come true by training you to become a professional Scrum Master in just 6 short weeks. You heard me right, just 6 weeks. This may be the biggest life-changing decisions you will ever make. They say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. If you were walking down the street and opportunity walked past you, would you recognize it? Well, here is an opportunity you won't want to miss. At Venbati LLC, our world-class trainers would prepare you for one of the best career changes you will ever make. And then you can consider yourself lucky when you make that 6-figure income and laugh your way to the bank. If you are that person who can recognize an opportunity, call us at 240-701-7796. Check out our website, www.venbati.com. We have limited spaces. First come, first serve. Come one, come all.
So, I just got word from Venbati LLC that they're starting yet another stream. That will be August 6, 2022. So, the session that ought to begin in July should definitely be on the way. And so, they have another session beginning August 6, 2022. So you can reach out to the Venbati Institute if you want to become a Scrum Master. And trust me, it pays to be one. The very short time frame for training. And of course, it opens you to a world of opportunities. The jobs are there in the hundreds of thousands. In the United States of America, in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and in Canada. So take the opportunity as it presents itself. That said, I'd like us to move into the beef of our discussion. Listen, my people, I always say it is always right. The time is always right to do right. Let us all walk the walk and talk the talk of freedom. Let us do this by doing only those things that would make it possible for us to overcome the challenges that stand in our way as we march towards freedom on a daily basis. In our last discussion, when I was last on this platform, I shared this quote from Assata Shakur. Nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. If you take a moment and look back at this quote, try to digest it, you will understand that while we sit in the southern Cameroons and think that we are a very moral set of people, we want to do only the right things and want to do them only very right. We want to follow some specific norms because that is the right and the best thing to do. Over in La République du Cameroon, all the means are good. I mean, all the means are good. They are applying what Jean-Paul Sartre, a French philosopher, says in his most celebrated book, Les Mains Sales. He says, en politique, tous les moyens sont bons, pourvu qu'ils soient efficaces. That in politics, all the means are good. You can use every means you can to attain your objective, provided that these means are effective. La République du Cameroon has over time come to the clear conclusion that the only way to keep the people of the southern Cameroons under total subjugation, slavery, and servitude for life is through lies telling, constant manipulation, and divide and rule. They believe that because it worked for 60 years, it will work even today. Some in our midst have come to this very clear notion too, that today falsehood is more attractive than truth. I mean, within our struggle, some have come to that conclusion that falsehood is more attractive than truth. And so for that reason, they spend all their time spewing falsehood, manipulation, tagging people, dividing and ruling us in order to enjoy some imaginary virtual power. I raise this here because I like us to have our eyes permanently open. We are the ones seeking freedom. We are the ones seeking to assert our independence. We are the ones seeking to send a colonizer out of our territory. For that single reason, we need every truth that we need to know to guide us as we march determinedly towards freedom. There is nothing that stops someone who is armed with a sacrosanct truth, that unbeatable truth that man is born free, but must fight with the last iota of his blood at every time to enjoy that freedom. Because the philosophers say, although man is born free, everywhere this same man is in chains. That is why, to get that freedom, which from a clear understanding of what I'm saying is not free, you have to work. This part of this work means being alert, means opening your ears, means reading carefully in between the lines, whoever tells you, and always try to ask yourself, what are their motives? That way, we will be able to overcome falsehood. My dear people, when I read what Malcolm X said, that you can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he is free. And I shared this again in my last conversation. It dawned on me that because they know that we will fear always to get into confrontation, they can subjugate us. They can climb on us. They can pound on us and threaten to destroy the peace if we want to seek what is our right. That is why Paul Biya at some time in the 90s, in the early 90s, I guess that should have been 1991, said in Monatele in the Leke division that he who wants peace must be prepared for war. And he always said throughout that as long as you obey me, obey my instructions and everything, you will have peace. From election after election, when he reached, you want to come out, he says, you are an apprentice soldier, you want to destroy the peace. If you want peace, stay quiet. And that is why, for over 35 years, the world mistook Cameroon for a country of peace. That was simply because the major threat to peace always suppressed people by letting them know that if they claimed their right, he will withdraw even the so-called peace that they thought they were enjoying. Fortunately, in 2016, the people of the southern Cameroons came to this final realization that the only way you get sustainable peace is taking away that permanent threat to peace. And the permanent threat to the peace of the people of the southern Cameroons has been Mr. Paul Biya and his colonial administration on our territory. And that is why from 2016 until this day, we have been fighting tooth and nail to get the permanent threat to peace on our land out of our land. That is why in my last broadcast, I faulted the church for claiming that they were at the service of peace and reconciliation in a setup where there is no justice. Peace only comes when justice reigns. That is what this whole thing is all about. And so, my people, in today's communication, I want us to be seeing how year in, year out, they manipulated us over and over to keep us where we are today. So, we must constantly be on their toes. We must trail them always and destroy, break every iota of lies that they tell our people. The information war is the first and most important aspect of this liberation war that we need to win. And that is why I am here and will always be here. So share the link to this communication as much as you can as we get into the viv of our discussions to deconstruct, to completely x-ray the attempt of one Professor Victor Julius Ngoh to manipulate and confuse our people. If La République du Cameroun continues to cling on to divide and rule, since 2016, that they have noticed that the people of the southern Cameroons in its entirety are working together like one bunch, it is because they know that for over 5 decades, they use that to keep us in bondage. And they know that there are still some in our midst that are gullible. And so when they throw out these things, it's because they know you will vehicle it, of course, like the misguided ones calling themselves my country people, them in our midst, are already carrying this, and according to them, it's a gospel. So, my people, as we prepare to get into that conversation and as you share this link as much as possible so we get as many Ambazonians as possible to come on board, so we share this vital information together, I pass through this. This week, La République du Cameroun exported its main crop. I mean, the good that La République produces best than every other person in the world. They exported it through Roger Nkododan. He used to be a member of parliament at the Cameroon, in the Cameroon rubber stamp called parliament, Roger Nkododan. And they prompted him with the assistance of France, to become the chairman or the president of the Pan-African Parliament. Of course, you will understand why since 2016 until this moment, the Pan-African Parliament never entertained anything about what is going on in the southern Cameroons. It was because France used its influence on some African leaders, especially in Francophone Africa and a few in English-speaking Africa, to influence the election of Roger Nkododan as chairman of the Pan-African Parliament, to make sure he will be the speed brake to any discussions regarding what is happening in the southern Cameroons. And of course, he was there, but fortunately for us, La République du Cameroun has a major export crop called corruption, embezzlement. That is what Nkododan exported to the Pan-African Parliament, and good enough for us, he was booted out, disgraced, pushed out like a recreant, a miscreant, like a miscreant that he is. That's what happened just a few days ago. So France is back to work, maybe struggling to see if they can get another stooge in Francophone Africa to replace him with. And of course, you recall, in my last conversation, I pointed out that even Musa Mahamat Faki, who is the chairman of the African Union Commission and who is from Chad, was also placed there by France. And France has been doing everything to maintain him there. For that reason, the AU does not, at the AU Commission, you never ever hear anything about what is happening in the southern Cameroons. Let me not mention CEMAC. Of course, France owns and runs CEMAC on a daily basis. And so, due to corruption and massive embezzlement, now La République du Cameroon exported to the Pan-African Parliament, we have been rid of this fellow called Roger Nkododam. So he's gnashing his teeth now somewhere, and of course, realizing that at the African level, being at the African level and trying to do this kind of trash is not being in Cameroon, where impunity and protectionism of people who promote impunity is the order of the day. Away from that, these are the same people. Of course, Nkododam was of the CPDM. This is another fellow of the CPDM in La République du Cameroon. And this is what he said on Equinox, that what we have in the northwest and southwest region is not a war. It is a magnified armed robbery. There is no war there. His name is Angelbert Esomba Mendongo. Some people immediately pick issues with him when he says this. No, don't pick issues. He is saying in knowing what he is talking about. Because in La République du Cameroon, they use every single opportunity for serious banditry. And that is why all their talks in the southern Cameroons are looting on a daily basis. He's absolutely correct. I say Esomba is very right in what he is saying. La République du Cameroon's administration, Mr. Paul Biya's talks, their soldiers, their gendarmes, their DOs, their SDOs, their governors, their delegates in the southern Cameroons are there looting as much as they can on a daily basis. That is what they are doing in our territory. And this is the message that these parliamentarians sought to pass on Equinox. Because if they were not there looting, stealing, breaking into houses, cutting out everything of value, setting these houses on fire, we saw that in Com, we saw it in So, we saw it in Momo, we have seen it in Meme, we have seen it in Dian, we have seen it in parts of Fako even. We have also seen it in Kupeng Wanenguba, in Manu. They are everywhere doing just this. And when one of them says it, some people misunderstand him. To me, he's saying that we are stealing in our own land. No. This is exactly whom they are. This is what they have been doing. That is why, despite the clear indication by the people of the southern Cameroons that we no longer want you on our territory, they can't leave. When you talk about land grabbing in Fako, the chief of them all is Okalia Bilai Bernard. You hear Ngamba Ledu owns land that he can't even remember the number of pieces in Fako. Where did he get money to buy all these pieces of land? So these are the things that are happening on our territory. And that is what Esomba wanted to pass out. In continuation of that, when they have looted and they have created all of the confusion, they see that there are other places where they don't have enough penetration, where they need also to carry their looting machinery into. They go to that place, they set confusion, and then they bring a solution. This is why you see here, Municipal Updates is a paper run on behalf of La République du Cameroon for La République du Cameroon with the sole intention of promoting the interests of La République du Cameroon in our land. And that's why you see here they say, urgent need for military bases in Akwaya. Does it surprise you? No, it should not surprise anyone. This is why they used even proxy militia to wreak havoc in villages in Akwaya, so that at the end of the day, they justify the need to create a military base in Akwaya opening another avenue for looting, for cutting away of our resources, for outright theft. That is who La République du Cameroon has been. And my people, just so you know, anytime you listen to anything from anyone in La République du Cameroon, put it under the scanner. Why? Because these are not people who ever keep to one promise. One, they don't. If you are doubting, ask the Swiss. The Swiss have an idea. And I want to use this opportunity to announce here that I will be here on Saturday, 7 p.m. Amber time, with a very important broadcast on the so-called Swiss-led process. Don't miss that appointment. Why? Because all those who signed up to that thing called the Swiss process have been informed to their faces exactly how other Western powers, among them the United States of America, now sees that thing that they referred to in the past. They have not minced words in telling them. They told Comrade Bohabed, they told Comrade Elvis Kometa, they told Comrade Akwanga, they told Comrade Abdul Karim, they told Sako, all of them, to their faces, exactly where the United States stands on that thing called Swiss process. Some of these people, even who were not there, who were not told in their faces, have received the information. They know now that that thing they are calling Swiss process does not exist. They know it. But what worries me is that they still come, hold meetings, organize sessions, and try to use that in manipulating and deceiving our people. If the only way you think you can remain relevant or get a following in this movement is by pushing a lie that is causing people to go and die, my dear brothers and sisters, you will meet me on your path. So if between now and Saturday, they have not already come out to tell the people of the Southern Cameroons exactly what the truth is on that issue, and continue to hold the Quran in one hand and tell lies with both sides of their mouth, with a straight face, that there is still something called Swiss process going on, then trust me, I will be here on Saturday at 7 p.m. for a tell it all. I mean, a tell it all. We need to know these things. The Swiss have got to be brought to understand that we know what the international community knows about this so-called process. And these people still enabling them need to be brought to understand that Southern Cameroonians are now aware of every single detail, because where it is now, the danger involved is that the Swiss are simply standing at the door with the complicity of some among us and blocking the chance for a real mediator with the power to do the real thing to come in. I have spoken to some of them, and I'll be saying that here on Saturday. And they have said, anyway, let me leave this until Saturday, 7 p.m. Don't forget this rendezvous. So back to La République du Cameroon, where I was saying, these are people who never keep to anything that they say. Never. If you doubt, listen to Paul Biya here.
Je crois que l'idée de préparer quelqu'un, c'est un peu des méthodes proches de la monarchie ou de l'oligarchie. Les Camerounais sont assez mûrs, ils pourront, au moment venu, choisir.
Il n'y a pas de dauphin, donc.
Je crois que dans une république qui fonctionne bien, le mot dauphin résonne. Je crois que l'idée de préparer...
So, if you listen to Paul Biya carefully, and I know there are some of you, a lot of us out there who don't understand French, Paul Biya is in this excerpt. This is an interview that was granted way back in 2011. Says it is immoral, unacceptable, and even preposterous for someone in a country, in a republic that is functioning normally, to begin talking about successor. That's my successor. This one is my successor. Paul Biya in this excerpt says when the time comes, Cameroonians will go to the polls and freely choose who they want to take over from him. This is what he says. And he sees clearly. But today, before the eyes of everyone, Paul Biya and his government are busy prompting Frank Biya, preparing him, staging him as his successor. We have seen even governors. I saw the governor of the West, our Fonka, at a public ceremony, giving some prizes and calling the name of Frank Biya and doing serious public relations on how Frank is a charismatic fellow, a nice gentleman. He is a promise of the future. I mean, a governor who is the representative of the head of state. In the West, in Bafoussam, promoting Frank Biya. We have seen CRTV being used to promote Frank Biya. We have seen all the government apparatus at this point in time being used to prompt and promote the candidature of Frank Biya. We have seen government ministers come out to prompt and promote Frank Biya as the next successor of Mr. Paul Biya. Completely ultra-violent, completely an opposite to what Mr. Paul Biya said. It's 2011. That's a fact. And that is why, when I look at this, and again, always remember to give a drink to my friend Don Dinga. I mean the real Don Dinga, not the other one that you people quote in some kind of ways. He says, le Cameroun n'est pas un royaume. J'avais 58 ans quand je t'ai donné le pouvoir. Maintenant, tu veux donner à ton fils. That's Ahijo's memory that they're evoking, telling Biya that you were not my son. You were not my brother or whatsoever. And I was only 58 when I handed over to you. But today you want to hand over to your son. Of course, you see that's Frank. That's Biya with his cane. And of course, Frank Biya warming up and waiting. And when he says you've totally messed the country, that explains why Southern Cameroonians or Southern Cameroons is leaving. Of course, my brother Don Dinga, thank you so much. But remember that even if Ahijo were still president today, he will not hold back Southern Cameroonians. It's true that with his policy and high-handedness and maybe even some few development projects here and there, he could have tried to fool a lot of people, but you can never cage a songbird for life. So even if Ahijo is still there, the time would have come and been ripe for the people of the Southern Cameroons to assert what is truly ours. And so, my people, as I prepare to get into our dossier, you need to see how the people of La République du Cameroon see us. Why they will always do the divide and rule as much as possible as being their best approach in keeping us in total subjugation. Whenever you see a citizen of La République du Cameroon supporting any citizen of the Southern Cameroons, it is because that citizen of the Southern Cameroons is doing their bidding. It is because that citizen of the Southern Cameroons is doing their dirty jobs to keep us in bondage, to keep us in total bondage. Are you surprised that recently you saw a militant of the CPDM party defending Frundi very seriously on a debate on Equinox and saying the decisions taken by Frundi and Owonot are the best ones, are the correct ones, and he has the right to do it, whether he quote party text or they don't quote party text. Of course, La République's government right now will use gendarmes, they will use B, they will use police to beat up every member of the SDF or supporter of the SDF that wants to go against the decisions taken by O.C. Joshua and John Frundi. Of course, you all know why. Just as we enter our next dossier, I will show you why. Just a moment for me to take a short breath.
Would you like to make a six-figure income? Well, you have come to the right place. At Venbati LLC, we can make your dream come true by training you to become a professional Scrum Master in just 6 short weeks. You heard me right, just 6 weeks. This may be the biggest life-changing decisions you will ever make. They say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. If you were walking down the street and opportunity walked past you, would you recognize it? Well, here is an opportunity you won't want to miss. At Venbati LLC, our world-class trainers would prepare you for one of the best career changes you will ever make. And then you can consider yourself lucky when you make that six-figure income and laugh your way to the bank. If you are that person who can recognize an opportunity, call us at 240-701-7796. Check out our website, www.venbati.com. We have limited spaces. First come, first serve. Come one, come all.
And so therefore, my people, it has come to pass that Mr. Bandakani, who is president of a so-called opposition political party that he calls it NMP in La République du Cameroon, has come out all in, bare knuckles. He did not mask anything again this time. He came out fully and told it as it is to the public why the government is supporting O.C. Joshua. He said, all true patriotic Cameroonians must support Joshua O.C. as new leader of the SDF because Cameroon needs a counterweight to Ambazonia, a check in the rise of Ambazonia. Joshua O.C. is a man who can help us to stop the independence of Ambazonia. He is the brake fluid against the rise of Ambazonians. So all true patriotic Cameroonians should support Frundi and his appointments because the SDF is an Anglophone party, the party that will help Cameroon stay united. If you missed it, I want to take it over. Because for those who sit back and say that, oh, we are calumnizing people, we are giving people tax, we are giving people names, just saying things left and right, there is no conjecture in all this. None, not even the least conjecture. Because Bandakani is one person who is, like they call in French, a franc-tireur. That's somebody who says it, who speaks it out. He doesn't reserve it. He doesn't even care how you interpret it. For him, he has one objective: keeping Southern Cameroonians as slaves of La République du Cameroon forever. And in the ranks of the Southern Cameroonians, he has identified two entities. Entity number one, the SDF party, is that political apparatus that must be protected carefully so that it will be used to hold Southern Cameroonians in bondage. And how should it be protected? By making sure that at the helm, all the people suggested by the CPDM and appointed by Mr. Frundi are maintained in those positions that they have in place because they have a clear objective. They have a specific goal, that of making sure Southern Cameroon remains a subset of La République du Cameroon. That's why he says, and I take it over, that all true patriotic Cameroonians must support Joshua O.C. as new leader of SDF because Cameroon needs a counterweight to Ambazonia, a check in the rise of Ambazonia. Joshua O.C. is a man who can help us to stop the independence of Ambazonia. He is the brake fluid against the rise of Ambazonians. And he pushes further by saying, so all true patriotic Cameroonians should support Frundi and his appointments because the SDF is an Anglophone party, the party that will help Cameroon to stay united. So now, my brothers and sisters of Ambazonia, of the Southern Cameroons, yesterday, you chastised us. You threw us stones for saying the thing as it is. You came after us for describing some people just for belonging to a political party as being enemies of our freedom. I'm sure you are tongue-tied. I'm convinced that you can't talk again. So if you are a Southern Cameroonian, an Ambazonian, and you say you are of the SDF party, I'm sure you already understand where you stand. I'm sure it's clear to you now that you are being used to stand against the wishes and aspirations of the people of the Southern Cameroons for total freedom. That you are that vehicle that France and La République are struggling to use to stop us from attaining our objective. Bandakani has been a proponent of the use of military force, but he has come to a clear conclusion that their military will never ever give them victory against the wishes and aspirations of the people of the Southern Cameroons. And so that is why they need someone like O.C. Joshua, who is militantly against you and I, militantly against the prosperity and common good of the people of the Southern Cameroons, militantly against the freedom of the people of the Southern Cameroons, both now and in the future. O.C. Joshua, that one individual. Are you surprised that he was topmost among those who kept signing petitions urging the government of the United States of America to repatriate, to bundle our people and send to Mr. Paul Biya for his lunch, just like Buhari did in Nigeria? Are you surprised? If there was anything still being hidden, Bandakani has put it public. In my last broadcast, I reminded everyone that O.C. Joshua is the other side of the coin of Frank Biya, and all is being worked to impose O.C. Joshua on the people of the Southern Cameroons and use him as a conduit to maintain us in slavery and servitude. O.C. doesn't have much to lose. Only his mother comes from Ndian. O.C. Joshua Nambangi. Only his mother comes from Ndian, but his other parent is Swiss. So, he doesn't care. He has another place he can go to. But you and I don't have. I don't have another place to go to. Shy of my Southern Cameroons, my Ambazonia, my land of milk and honey. My people of the Southern Cameroons don't get food. They will tell you we are in the opposition. We are going to parliament to go and sit there so we have the opportunity to talk about your problems. Today you know why they are there. If you were doubting the role of the SDF before, today you know it clearly. This is Bandakani talking, not me, not Bakuro. So now, let's go over to my friend, because at least I had an opportunity to have an interview with him, Professor Victor Julius Ngoh, for Timescape magazine. At the time it was, a Frontline magazine in the Southern Cameroons. And so let's open his chapter and then we get going. Get set.
All Anglophone Conference 1 in Boya, April 1993, wanted a return to a federal structure, two-state or autonomy. That was not given. May 1994, All Anglophone Conference 2 held.
Now, let's stop there first a bit. This is just a start. You see, he says here that at the AAC 1, that was held in Mount Mary, that was 93, January 93, our people asked for a return to the two-state federation. Asked for a return the two-state federation as it was in 1961. Now listen, that was in 1993. In 2016, I don't want to go for what was in between. That is several years after, the consortium asked again for a return to the federal system of 1961. Again, La République du Cameroun did not heed. That tells you how much we have struggled, how much we have, held ourselves, held our minds, paid no attention to the torture, the manipulation, the extortion, and the rape of our territory and our people, and had still wanted to have something to do with La République du Cameroun right up to 2016. But La République du Cameroon paid no heed. And you heard the words he used? He said, but that was not given. Mark the words always. Given. Given by who? When we joined La République du Cameroon in 1961, it was on basis of equality. First, because we were all trust territories of the United Nations. The same category, the same class. And the mandate to both France and Britain, each in their spheres, was to prepare each of these territories towards independence. So we came into a union of two parties equal in status. Where then do we come from this matter of one now giving something to the other? That is extremely vexing. Never forget the use of those words. These words tell you exactly where they place us and why La République du Cameroon voted against the independence of the Southern Cameroons on April 21, 1961. Let's continue.
Secretly in Bamenda, I emphasize secretly in Bamenda, and one of the secret resolutions was to strike for independence of Northwest and Southwest. Strike for independence of Northwest and Southwest. That was...
Now, let me stop Victor Julius Ngoh there, because he says that the AAC2 in 1994 in Bamenda was a secret meeting. Does anyone here know that that meeting was secret? Secret from who? What Victor Julius Ngoh is saying here is that the government of Cameroon, I beg your pardon, the government of La République du Cameroon did not authorize the holding of that meeting. The fact that the government of La République du Cameroon does not authorize the holding of a meeting by Southern Cameroonians, does that make it a secret meeting? Because the use of secret here, and you see he emphasizes on that, is deliberate to give the impression that some people sat, hid themselves from the others without the knowledge of other Southern Cameroonians, had a Machiavellic intention. And of course, when you go further, you will understand why he's saying this, and I'll remind you about it. And he says it was a secret meeting to plan and had a secret resolution for the independence of Northwest and Southwest. And that is a lie. The fact, of course, you heard from Munzu, Simon Munzu, who is clearly with La République du Cameroon, all this while. Simon Munzu made clear that at the AAC2 in Bamenda, I beg your pardon, it was agreed that La République du Cameroon will be given a reasonable time frame within which to return to the two-state federation, failing which the SCNC that is created at that time will reserve the right to seek for the independence of the Southern Cameroon, will seek to restore the independence of the Southern Cameroons. That is the fact. You definitely have heard this from Munzu himself. You definitely have heard this from Professor Carlson Anyangwe. You definitely have heard this from the lips of the late Molan Jolly Tumbe. You definitely have heard this from the lips of late Justice Ebongalame. You definitely have heard this from the lips of late Chief Ayamba Ete Otun. You definitely have heard this from the lips of the late Albert Mukong. You definitely have heard this from the lips of Pam Fongalamfo, who is still alive and there in prison. But listen to Victor Julius Ngoh.
1994. 1995, the SCNC was created. And the goal of the NCNC was what? Independence as a separate state. Poncha, Muna.
Now stop. The goal of the SCNC was not immediately independence as a separate state. The goal of the SCNC over a certain period of time. And that is why Munzu, in one of his recent outings, asked, so from 1994, after AAC2 which has been quoted in several history books, but never as a secret meeting. After AAC2 said they were giving a reasonable time frame. And in a recent outing, Munzu asked, can we consider that the time lapse between 1994 and today is a reasonable time frame? So when someone can say they were created immediately, remember, the motto of the SCNC had always and still is the force of argument, not the argument of force. And that is why they had struggled over time to secure even dialogue, using all the soft approaches possible, until it got to a point where we now know what we know.
Lawyer Ekotang Elat, Dr. Samuel Munzo and the others went to the UN, went to the UN and then Los Angeles, Minnesota, and other states, calling for the UN to reopen the Southern Cameroon's decolonization file. We are talking of 1995. And they wanted Southern Cameroon to achieve independence. They wanted West Cameroon to achieve independence. And bear in mind that these are the same politicians who campaign all over all.
Now stop. He says they wanted Southern Cameroons to be independent, or they wanted Southern Cameroons to achieve independence. Look here. This man is talking about 1995. How did Southern Cameroons join La République du Cameroun? Later on, you hear him talk about independence by joining. How can you have achieved independence in 1961? And then in 1995, you are talking about they wanted Southern Cameroons to achieve independence. This is a vexing distortion. As a professor, language matters. You should be able to use the appropriate language. If you were saying that they wanted Southern Cameroons to assert their independence, that's something different. But not saying they wanted Southern Cameroons to achieve independence. Listen, on the 21st of April, 1961, the United Nations held a vote on the independence of the Southern Cameroons, at which a majority of the members of the United Nations, a huge majority, including the United States, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, including Russia and even China, voted for the independence of the Southern Cameroons. The only of the 5 permanent members of the Security Council that voted against the independence of Southern Cameroons was France. And France invited La République du Cameroun, that was already independent by then, to vote against the independence of the Southern Cameroons that was achieving independence, to join them in a union of 2 parties equal in status. France mobilized all of Francophone Africa to vote against the independence of the Southern Cameroons. The only one that refused to listen to France was Mali. And why was it important? Because this matters. Why does it matter? Because France and La République du Cameroun would have loved a situation where on the floor of the United Nations, a majority of the countries vote against the independence of the Southern Cameroons, so that we Southern Cameroonians who will simply become therefore an annexed territory of La République du Cameroun. They already had this design. If that had happened in 1961, that a majority of the countries voted against the independence of the Southern Cameroons, La République du Cameroun will be the first to be calling us to an international negotiation table today, because they will know that they have all the legal arguments. But today, they know they don't have, because the case that we are tabling today is a case of a stolen country. Because Southern Cameroons achieved independence in 1961, and on October 1, and joined the Republic of Cameroon. And Victor Ngoh himself will still say it ahead, in total contradiction of himself, because lies telling are difficult to uphold. Let's listen on.
All of us having Cameroons for reunification by joining, for independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. These same politicians, whether we like it or not, we have to recognize that they were at one time Prime Minister, Vice President, Speaker of the National Assembly, and then now they are calling for the independence of West Cameroon. And surprisingly, they failed to tell Anglophones, failed to tell Cameroonians that when they said the United Nations Trusteeship Council was going to reopen the Southern Cameroon's decolonization file, they refused to tell Anglophones and West Cameroonians that the Trusteeship Council no longer existed because it has suspended its activities in November 1994.
Now, when you hear Ngoh say, one, these people that you see, they have been prime minister, they have been vice president, they have been this, they were the one campaigning for. Listen, what Ngoh does not say here is that these people in 1961 coerced, forced by the international system, that once you achieve independence, you must join another country because, like I always said, the British claimed that we did not have enough resources to self-sustain as a stand-alone country. Reason, we must unite or join with another country upon achieving independence. Not that we're going to be handed over or annexed by another country, but that we should join another country in a union after achieving independence. And I keep reminding each and every one that the plebiscite, and if you doubt, go and find the meaning of the word plebiscite, that the plebiscite of 1961 was an opportunity for the people of the Southern Cameroons to empower the political class to eventually negotiate a treaty of union with either La République du Cameroun or Nigeria, depending on which option would have won. And the option of joining with La République du Cameroun after achieving independence won. And therefore, the politicians were empowered to negotiate a treaty of union, which finally never happened. That is why the United Nations did not say immediately after the vote on February 11, we are now part of La République du Cameroun, I need you walk into that territory. No. After that vote on February 11, 1961, on April 21, more than 2 months after, the UN sat to formally hold an independence vote for the Southern Cameroons. Because only independent countries sign union treaties. Only independent countries enter into treaties with other independent countries. That is why all the meetings between the Southern Cameroon's delegations and the delegations of La République du Cameroun started taking place after April 21, 1961, not before. Because our independence was voted for, and overwhelmingly we won independence in a UN General Assembly vote on April 21, 1961. So these politicians, at the time that they campaigned for union with La République du Cameroun, it was a union of two states, equal in status, in a federation. I never saw Foncha, Muna, or whatsoever, coming out with treaties to say they were excited to approve an immersion of the Southern Cameroons into La République du Cameroun. Because from the time La République du Cameroun walked into our territory on October 1, 1961, it was a moment of acute dictatorship. And our people started complaining by 1962 we can all read the writings of Professor Bernard Nsokika Fonlon. We can all read even articles written by Victor Julius Ngoh, this same Julius Ngoh, saying how Foncha was so displeased with what was happening, did not want the removal of federal, or did not want the death of the federation. And Ahidjo reminded him that he had no people. And Foncha said, when my children grow up, they will fight. The same Victor Julius Ngoh wrote it. And today, you want to come and manipulate, they were prime minister, they were vice president, they were speaker of the assembly, because he wants to go right ahead and claim that there are people of some part that they created, called Northwest, that are fighting to force their will upon the people of another part that they call Southwest. And listen, we know them. And you don't forget, who is Victor Julius Ngoh? One, Victor Julius Ngoh is a younger brother to the late Zachary Ngoh. Of course, everybody knows Zachary Ngoh of Radio Cameroon, the sports commentator. Now, where is Victor Julius Ngoh from? Victor Julius Ngoh is a citizen of La République du Cameroun. Victor Julius Ngoh is an Eton man from the Lekié division of the central region of La République du Cameroun. They found themselves, his parents found themselves in Fako. They came to work in the CDC in the late 50s and early 60s. And so he and his brother Zachary Ngoh were born there. I don't know if Zachary Ngoh was actually born there because, looking at his age and everything, I may be mixed up on that. I've not done research on that yet. It's not even where Julius Ngoh himself was born. But what I know, and which is a fact, that he himself has never disputed, because I asked him face to face, one-on-one, there in Boya, at, how do I call this place again in Boya? It's getting off my mind. Anyway, but I sat with him in Boya, and I asked him this question, and of course he didn't argue, he agreed. He is from the Lekié division. He's a ton from the Lekié division of the central region. But he said he was born and bred in Boya, and he did all his education in English. Now, when you know where he comes from, and you know who our oppressors are, you understand, therefore, who he is, and why he should be doing the things that he is doing. Why he should be saying the things that he is saying. Why he should be taking the posture that he is taking. Why he should be involved in the manipulation. But today when he's talking, he gives you even the impression that he is from Fako, he is from the so-called Southwest, and he is disgruntled that the people of the so-called Northwest want to impose their will on him. Him, Victor Julius Ngoh. Let me remind us, because he's not alone. There have been a number of them like that, who claimed initially to be our people, to be with us, until when the political appointments came, we were forced to know where they were from, and we were embarrassed to see them clearly carry all the goodies to the places where they came from, out of the southern Cameroons. First, there was Honorable Omar Beto. Honorable because he was elected in Tiko as a member of parliament to represent Fako, to represent the people of Tiko, the Tiko local government area. But before the people of Tiko knew, Omar Beto was carrying all his goodies, his projects, but to the littoral. Yes, to the littoral province at the time. Omar Beto. But he was born and bred in Tiko and gave us to understand that he was a Tiko man. Tick him off. That is how it ended. And that's how it ended up with one mandate. The people were forced to come to themselves. It's the same thing with one Michael Tomdio Ngako. Everybody knew him as a Tiko boy, Tiko man. We all knew him as being a Southern Cameroonian. But on the day Michael Tomdio Ngako was appointed Minister of Water, Water Resources and Energy, the people of Tiko were expecting, like what happens with Provincial government, a homecoming in Tiko of their son, appointed minister. No. Michael Tomdio Ngako had to go to the West region. He had to go to Bafang, searching for people to show him where his great-grandfather, his father, or his grandfather and other were born. That he was Bafang. Suddenly, the people of Tiko realized that Michael Tom Jongako was not a Tiko man, was not a Southern Cameroonian, was not a Fako man, was from Bafang. That's how it happened. And he had to struggle and struggle until located some people said, oh, they could remotely identify with him. I mean, he didn't even know where he was. But he went back to Bafang, and that's where he finally did his homecoming. Michael Tom Jongako. I'm highlighting these people so we know them. Because they will soon come and stand and talk like Victor Julius Ngoh. So that when you see them, when you hear them, you recognize them, you know exactly what they stand for, and you know why they would have been brought to talk to you. Besides him, there was another one called Professor Francis Ngemenye Wete. He was my teacher in ASMAP, the Advanced School of Mass Communication. And he made sure his name was always written Francis N. Wete. So nobody ever knew what this N stood for. They hid it carefully. So because most people in Meme identified with him, they knew that he was from Meme, and we all knew that this was a Southern Cameroonian. And of course, whenever they said they were doing something for Anglophones, as they called it, they gave it to Professor Wete because he was an Anglophone. He was a Southern Cameroonian. That's what they thought, and that's what they said. That's what they held. Until the day Francis Wete is appointed Deputy Director General of CRTV. And the government, I don't know whether it was deliberately or it was, just that they were doing the right thing normally, revealed his third name, that N. Now everyone knew that was called Francis Ngemenye Wete. And he was immediately asked to identify with those people. That is the day we all knew that Francis Wete came from Bangoa. Bangoa in the west region of La République du Cameroon. From Bangoa. But if you ask the government, they would have told you the Deputy General Manager of CRTV is an Anglophone, or is a Southern Cameroonian. But as soon as he was given this position, he was asked to identify with people. Francis Wete went home. Everybody saw him for the first time go to Bangoa, and that is when they even gave him a traditional stool. Gave him a title in Bangoa. I like that we know all these 11th province people, because this will help us in analyzing whatever they say. So you will be able to know their intentions. And there are many in our midst. You know, if the people of Bamenda saw that Pa Guarantee or Kwame Pa Ghana, if he had gone to school and wanted to be mayor of Bamenda, he could have been mayor of Bamenda over and over and over and over. Pa Ghana. There's a whole street named after him, Ghana Street. But when Pa Guarantee, he even got married to some of our daughters. But when Pa Guarantee died, the people of Bamenda were reminded that he was from Bangang in the West region. Because his remains were taken to Bangang in the West region. It was the same thing with Pa Amu Mezam. So there are many of them, and nobody doubts the role that Amu Mezam has played from the start of this movement to this day against the people of the Southern Cameroons. So there are so many of them in our midst. Never lose sight of them. Never. And the plan over time had been, that's why they were taking over all our schools. Taking over our schools. That's why if you went to Sacred Heart, you went to Lourdes, you went to St. Augustine, you went to St. Francis, you went to what are some, in short, all the saints. You went to Sase, you went to all of those schools, the Seka Baptist College, the Baptist schools, all of them. At least 60% of those who were enrolling until 2016 were the children of the top guns of La République du Cameroon. The objective was to make sure they have people who talk like us, who act like us, who eat like us, who do everything like us, like Mark Barra once said, so that tomorrow, they will be used just as they are using Victor Julius Ngoh now to continue to subjugate us. You should learn this. We have put a stop to this. That is why I brought back this quote here today. That nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. Those citizens of La République du Cameroon in our midst, who claim and pretend to be among us, to be one of us, listen, they have never been, they will not be, and they will never be. They have a clear intention to tackle us constantly from the within, weaken us from the within, to ensure that we fail in our objective to deliver the freedom our people seek to our people. That is the objective. Let's continue.
So when they told Anglophones in 1995 that the Trusteeship Council was going to reopen the decolonization file, knowing fully well that the Trusteeship Council had suspended its activities in November 1994, and they arrived at the Mongo Bridge with a big flag, the United Nations flag, and gave the impression that this was evidence that the United Nations was going to reopen the West Cameroon decolonization file. It was a big lie. And in the process...
Professor Victor Julius Ngoh, you are the liar here. These people traveled to the United Nations, and there are records in New York that they were received at the United Nations. There are records in New York that they were not only received, they were told exactly what to go do and tell their people to reassert the independence of the Southern Cameroons. Professor Victor Julius Ngoh, you are the liar here. And you're not the mouthpiece of the United Nations, because the United Nations has offices across the world and in Cameroon that they could have issued a release at the time to say what these people are telling you is a lie. They don't let this kind of lie that can put in jeopardy the unity of a country without saying a thing if the people were lying. I guess nobody has forgotten that not long ago, just two years or so back, I listened to Sako say here that his government was invited for a meeting in New York by the 4th Committee on Decolonization. So I don't know what decolonization Victor Julius Ngoh says ended way back before 1994. He said, suspended their activities. Not that they closed their activities, meaning they could reignite. So what tells him that nobody told these people what they were telling our people? These are the kind of people. And that is why I will continue to hail people like Francis B. Nyamjo and Professor Willibert Zengwa, who have published profusely on the history of the Southern Cameroons to write some of the trash that Victor Julius Ngoh kept writing to confuse our history with the sole intention of doing the bidding of his country, La République du Cameroun, to hold us in bondage. If anybody had ever sponsored the divide and rule to extents unimaginable, putting it even in books, so as to cause even our children to grow up with the notion that the people of the Northwest, what they call Northwest, and Southwest, what they call Southwest, were different people, that one group hated the other so much and was always anxious to cheat the other. This is the job that Victor Julius Ngoh has been doing.
Of course, Anglophones in their vast majority contributed money, just as during the 2016 right up to the 2022 Anglophone crisis, vast majority of Anglophones have contributed more money for my trip to Ngoh.
No. You see, are you saying that the UN can no longer entertain this case? Is that what you're saying?
The case presented by who? Presented by who? And then what is the case for? Is it for independence? And are you sure The independence of Northwest and Southwest is what the majority of Anglophones want. And you see,
Victor Julius asked that the case presented by who? So we are not people enough to present our case. So it is La République du Cameroon that will present our case. So I have to wait for some entity from somewhere to come and present our case. The case presented by who? As if you are talking about dead people. Or as if you are talking about people with no notions. As if he is trying to tell us that the late Jungle Foncha, the late Solomon Tandem Muna, the late Samuel Ekontang Elat, Simon Munzu, Professor Carlson Anyangwe, and all those who traveled to New York in 1995 were not representative of the people of the Southern Cameroons, could not talk for the Southern Cameroons. At the same time, he says these are the people who took us into the Union. So they could only represent us when it was to take us into a failed union with La République du Cameroon, but cannot represent us when it comes to presenting our case. Just look at that. Just look at. And then he begins now the worst of all the fallacies.
we should avoid a situation of using the demographic advantage of one region to say that region speaks for both Northwest and Southwest. I think
now look at this. He says we should avoid using the demographic advantage. What is La République du Cameroon doing today? What happened in 1972? Normally, in 1961, only the people of the Southern Cameroons were consulted to determine which entity they would like to join with upon achieving independence. They didn't ask the citizens of La République du Cameroon. But in 1972, when they had to abolish the federation, they consulted both parties and the vote was between we and yes. What were they using? The demographic advantage. And you come today to tell us, let somebody not use their demographic advantage to say they speak on behalf of others. Let's listen again.
it is wrong and it is unfair.
Okay.
Southern Cameroon was not a member of the UN. The independence of Southern Cameroon by joining was not done through a negotiated treaty. It was a political process sanctioned by a plebiscite. And in this whole...
Now listen to the manipulator. He says the union between La République du Cameroun and the Southern Cameroons was not by a treaty. It was a political process sanctioned by a plebiscite. Stop here. Let me take us back now, quickly. So you see who this manipulator is. A plebiscite took place on 11th of February. Listen, on 11th of February, 1961. Why did La République not come in the next day? Why didn't they come in March? Why didn't they come in April? Why didn't they come in May? No, stop. After that vote of April 11, 1961, that's on February 11, 1961. On April 21, 1961, the United Nations organized an independence vote for the Southern Cameroons. Because as a free people, we now had to negotiate a treaty of union. What political process is Victor Julius talking about? What political process? Because he says sanctioned by a plebiscite. The plebiscite came before the vote, and after that vote, there were a lot of meetings. That was the process of negotiations of that union, but which unfortunately aborted because the British abandoned our people, the French came in with their rules, and then of course Ahidjo had already come in with the gendarmes and soldiers, and they confused our people in Fumban. That is why today La République du Cameroon has nothing to show. That is what brought us together, because there is no treaty of union. And that is why La République du Cameroon will run away from the negotiation table from the 1st to the 31st of June unless they are forced. La République du Cameroon will only come to the negotiations table because they no longer have anywhere else to go to or what else to do. That is why I will salute my brother Foot soldier no pity for the beautiful job he and his people are doing on the ground. I salute Transporter and all of these people in Kumba for that wonderful meeting you held. I'll be coming back to it. And because you have now come to the clear understanding that you have to take power on ground zero, commandeer these activities, get La République du Cameroon out of our land, while in the diaspora we do the diplomacy that is supposed to be done to get ready that when you force La République du Cameroon to get to the negotiation table, we can be able to sit there with them, with all the partners that we would have worked to achieve by that time. So this is the height of manipulation. Because first of all, say it was not through any negotiation, but it was a political process. Really? Distortion.
For context, the UN, through Resolution 1608, said, please, United Kingdom, Southern Cameroon, Republic of Cameroon, put in place measures to ensure that on the 30th of September 1961, Southern Cameroon will achieve independence upon its joining the Republic.
Listen, he says here, did you hear that? That on the 30th of September 1961 at midnight, Southern Cameroon will achieve independence upon joining. No, it's not upon joining. Southern Cameroon will achieve independence and join. Did you hear that? Southern Cameroons will achieve independence and join. But he claimed a while ago that there was a referendum on the 11th of February. And that was a political process that ended. But you see, with his lips, he says Southern Cameroon will achieve independence. Did you hear that? I have said here 1,000 times that truth is like a lion. Let it loose and allow it to navigate the world. It will defend itself against falsehood. You see, he tried to manipulate. Oh, we're not independent. Oh, we could not achieve independence. Oh, it was a political process. Oh, there was no negotiations. But at the end of the day, he comes and inevitably says that on the 30th of September at midnight, Southern Cameroon will achieve independence. Those are his words. Will achieve independence. But he wants to, so if you say by joining, upon joining. We achieve independence by joining or upon joining. No. We achieve independence and join La République du Cameroon. Following negotiations that were taking place throughout until running right into Fumba. And by this time, we were supposed to have had a union treaty in place. But it was not in place. There was no union treaty. That's why La République walked into our territory with their military. Between Senegal and Gambia, this same thing happened. As Victor Julius Ngoh ended. Because there was a treaty, the people of Gambia, once they realized that French culture is repugnant to freedoms, French culture is absolutely anti-freedom, militantly anti-freedom for the African people. The people of Gambia opted quickly out of what was called Senegambia. That's another country called Senegambia at the dawn of independence. So why do they think that we have to lose hundreds of thousands of Southern Cameroonians in order for them to get out of our territory?
Of Cameroon. And a series of meetings was held to implement UN Resolution 1608. And in the course of those series of meetings, it was agreed by the parties, United Kingdom, Southern Cameroon, Republic of Cameroon, that we shall do this by an exchange of note. And that was what was done. And
An exchange of what notes? Now you see, he calls too many parties that were involved, which tells you that it was not just what Victor Julius Ngoh is talking about. My people of Ambazonia, I know I've taken a lot of our time, and I would have loved to continue to listen to his foolishness, but because we are cut off with time, I will come to part 2 of this, but that will be after the broadcast of Saturday, July 9. I'll come to part 2 of this, and we will continue always to fact check and debunk all of this massive lies. And when he tries to sell some stupid notion of the people of what they call Northwest, trying to use their demographic advantage to talk for the people of Southwest, did Victor Julius Ngoh step out on September 22, 2017 to see the people who almost gave Okada Bilai a heart attack? So there were Bamenda people who came all over the Southwest and marched on the streets with peace plans demanding the departure of La République du Cameroun in their millions. You should stop. Stop trying to baby my people. We are mature people. We know our history. Don't come and water our history down, try to sell us some scraps of paper. Our people have come of age, and no one, not even you, Victor Julius Ngoh, can manipulate us again, ever. That is not going to happen. Okay? Now, I've said it over and over, that La République du Cameroun would struggle to continue passing on only such dirty, evil, stupid narrative of divide and rule because they believe that that is what will help them in holding us down. That is why they are openly sponsoring the terrorist and evil acts of one misguided gentleman called Moja Moja. Let me take a short break and we'll close up.
Would you like to make a six-figure income? Well, you have come to the right place. At Venbati LLC, we can make your dream come true by training you to become a professional Scrum Master in just 6 short weeks. You heard me right, just 6 weeks. This may be the biggest life-changing decisions you will ever make. They say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. If you were walking down the street and opportunity walked past you, would you recognize it? Well, here is an opportunity you won't want to miss. At Venbati LLC, our world-class trainers would prepare you for one of the best career changes you will ever make. And then you can consider yourself lucky when you make that 6-figure income and laugh your way to the bank. If you are that person who can recognize an opportunity, call us at 240-701-7796. Check out our website, www.venbati.com. We have limited spaces. First come, first serve. Come one, come all.
So, I know if Molan Jolly Tumbe were still alive, he will walk over to Victor Julius Ngoh and tell him to his face, as he has had to do before. The late Molan Jolly Tumbe faulted and gainsaid this same Professor Victor Julius Ngoh in 2010 in Bamenda beyond reasonable doubt when they came there to celebrate something called the 50th anniversary of reunification. Was this 2010? I think something like that. And so I know that even as Mola is turning his grave, he can still adjust there and give Victor Julius Ngoh a dark one in the face. Say, stop trying to confuse my people. Listen, my people. These manipulators know that the hold La République du Cameroun had on the southern Cameroon has expired. Watch this other piece of foolishness.
You stay for South Qatar. Shout for up. You stay for side shout. You be picking for us village. Shout. Speaking for small baba. Speaking for small baba. What do you be a name? Akumbu secret from Bamba Kino. Okay. You, what do you be a name? Outabo Augustine. From which village? From small Babanki. Babanki, the same village now? Yeah. Oh, give me that village. What do you be a name? From which village? Small Baba. Down. Small Baba. You know now who na so? You know now they for Naba? No. Una know my name? No. Me I be Moja Moja. Una phone na come Babanki no. For now, I never talk say una be armor. But that player catch you how they call that place. Today na Tuesday. Today na Monday no. Then una fall from Babanki all na work na one work. Talk true. No. Una work na one work. Any man dey work you or no? Which school dey work staff? Yes, I need do na any bad thing But why if you say any Monday, when una talk say na ghost town, now bad thing they happen. Oh, now the other day I catch one them. I not heard no Bamenda man because if my back reporter that they catch him. You say all una come for which village? Babanki no. Una know na who una now so wetin una name? Say Moja. Wetin? My name na wetin? Today na Monday, no show them my moto. Yes, na my moto that. Show am back for me. They record the video. Una talk say Moja no like bad people. Shout. I go left una for Shanda for identification. Yeah.
Now, you see that? This is an acute abuse. But the people of Cameroon will let it. So because you come from Babanki and your brothers of Babanki, you people have no right to sit together. You people have no right to be together, to communicate together. Because it will translate. Oh, what a shame. It is desperation that has gotten La République du Cameroon to this level. I mean desperation. Why? Because yesterday, the British said, we do not have enough resources to self-sustain as a country. Today, the same British and the international community are saying, if we go our separate ways, La République du Cameroon will not be able to sustain as a country because we have over 60% of the resources that fit the economy of this beleaguered country. Oh my goodness. I'm just confused. Can someone tell me? Yesterday, we were undesirable because we had nothing. Today, no. We cannot go our way. We cannot be free because if we go, these people will die of hunger. Finally, what are they saying? Listen, my brothers and sisters of Ambazonia. This is why we have to stay woke. This is why we must continue to recall that you can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has freedom. The only day the people of the southern Cameroons will get peace will be the day that we are free. That is why we must continue to fight for our freedom until we achieve it, until we get the last vestiges of La République du Cameroon's colonial administration on our territory out of our land. That is the day that we can claim to be free. Until then, let the struggle continue.